Cobra Kai, ladies and gentlemen. Cobra Kai is back, episode 2. We're back with another Netflix review, and it's your boy Icon going over some Cobra Kai. So this particular episode, episode 2, is entitled Mole, and it should have been entitled Honor because that's what this whole episode was about, testing people's honor. So this particular episode starts, episode 2. We get a little backstory with Daniel's boy. His name is either Joe or Cho. I forget. But it takes us back to his childhood about when he was training in the mystical arts of kung fu and karate or whatever. And then his uncle, his dad or his uncle, whoever was teaching him, the martial arts. And his dad was actually, I don't know, every time his dad spoke, he was cracking me up or his uncle, I think it was his uncle, but he kept cracking me up because I felt like they were making fun of like old martial arts films, because it's just like he's training all of his students and then all you hear is again, and I'm just like, why is he yelling? But they were doing this thing where everybody had to like hit their fists into sand or whatever. And Joe, he was trying to cut corners as a child. He was trying to take the easy road. So he ended up putting a pillow in the sand so, he wouldn't hurt his hands when he hit the sand. But then his uncle found out and cursed him out. And then he was just like, oh, do you want to be a coward? Or do you want to be warrior again? Whatever. So he grew up with that. He took that with him throughout the course of his entire life. And now he's infiltrated Cobra Kai as a mole so he can help take them down from the inside. Terry Silver, he's introducing, like all the senseis that he brought into all the students. Tori, she ended up she wasn't there at first, but then she showed up because she's still feeling the effects of what happened last season when Terry Silver paid the referee to help her win the fight. So, but she's come back now. She came back to the dojo on the day that the senseis are going to be training, because Terry Silver's looking for a sensei to be his right hand to go into business with. So he's trying to basically like pick between these people to see who gets to be the chosen one to help him, take Cobra Kai forward into the future and beyond. So now Joe, he's training Tori because when he found out that she was the All Valley female champion, he was like, oh, you are champion, which means I would not take it easy on you. So he's training with her. He's teaching her, like, she's kicking the bag. And he was just like, oh, he's like, you hold back. He's like, you are not champion. And then she was just like, I guess not. Then he was just like, oh, there's something mental that, that holds you back. Because he was like, it's not your physical talent. He was like, it's not your talent. He's like, it's your mind. He's like, you must discipline your mind to release the burden. He was basically trying to tell her, to have honor. And then, he was like, why do you fight? And then she was like, for my family and, to put food on the table and to be the best. And he was like, those are good reasons. And she was like, why do you fight? And he was like, for honor. Then she was like, who the hell needs honor? And then he was like, without honor, you have nothing. And I was just like, this was so cliche to, like, out of all the kids that are in Cobra Kai, out of all the students, you just so happen to pair Tori up with the one sensei that preaches honor when she's currently going through a situation where she's been dishonored because she became champion of a match that was rigged because her sensei paid the ref off. I thought that was hilariously coincidental, but it helps move the plot forward, so we're running with it. So he put the thought in her head. He was like, as long as you strengthen your mind, he was like, your honor will shine through or some shit like that. And then, and then she started thinking like he got in her head a little bit, and he kind of she kind of bonded with him just a tad. And then Terry Silver picked up on that. He's like, if you're going to be here, be here. And then she confronted him later. She was like, oh, I found out that you rigged the thing and that, you paid the referee. And then she was just like, oh, I'm a joke. And then he was like, no, he was like, every single person in Blue Valley knows you as the champion. So if you don't know that, then the problem is with you. And then she was like, but you don't even deny paying him. He was like, no. He was like, I did what I had to do. He said that I didn't come from the streets, like I didn't have to like wait on tables and like scratch and claw to get where I had to get. He was like, I basically was handed everything and I learned how to use my financial wealth to get everything that I wanted. And this was no different. So he said, I can put the battery in your back, push you to the moon, and make you the greatest karate champion of all time. But you got to show up tomorrow. If you don't show up tomorrow, then I get it. I understand. But if you do come tomorrow, then you're going to be the best. So the honor speech that Joe gave her went out the window. And then the very next day she came back. But you can tell in her mind, she's still thinking about what Joe said. So then Terry Silver invited Joe to his house. He was just like, oh, why don't you come over? They shared some sake together, and then they did a toast. That's when Terry Silver told him that I want you to be my partner. And then he was like, yes, I agree to be your partner. And then, they drunk on it, and then, then that was it. The next day, Tori showed up, and then she was like, where is everybody? And then Terry Silver was like, oh, there is no class today, and told Tori to leave. When Tori left, Joe was coming in, and the two of them crossed paths and acknowledged each other. When Joe came in, that's when Terry Silver was like, oh, he was like, back in, Japan or whatever. He said that I trained at the dojo that you said you were from. And he said anytime somebody from that dojo, whenever we shared a glass of like whiskey or sake or whatever it was, they always said a specific word as a toast before we drank. I forgot what the word was, like bonzi or something like that. But he said that, so it was my surprise that a person who claimed to be from there, when you toasted, you said something completely different. So I know you're full of shit. And then he was just like, so what happens now? And then he told all the other senseis that he brought in. He said the first sensei that takes down Joe gets to be his right hand and will be paid triple the amount of money that he first offered. So naturally, all 8 of them tried to take Joe down, and Joe whooped their ass. And then after Joe whooped their ass, he told Terry Silver, he was like, you stay away from the Russo family. He's like, Miyagi-Do will continue, and the line has been drawn in the sand, and if you cross that line, I would destroy Cobra Kai. And then he walked out, and then Terry Silver was like, ooh, shit. So that was that. The mole thing didn't last very long, which is fine, because Daniel even told him earlier in the episode, he said that Terry Silver thinks 3 moves ahead. So he was like, eventually he is going to find you out, and he's going to try to fight you. And that's exactly what happened here. Miguel now, I said in the last review, when Miguel got offered to have dinner with the family, I thought that was weird, because I was like, he's a total stranger. Why would you bring this total stranger into your house and allow this total stranger to sit at your dinner table not knowing who he is or what he's about? So that obviously wasn't weird enough, because he let the boy spend the night. He wakes up the next, they let the boy spend the night. I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, people in Mexico can't be that friendly. So he wakes up the next day, he's talking to his dad, and then while he's, having the conversation with his dad, he found out that the little boy and the woman, that's not his wife or son. He said that they're just dating, and, he never had kids. So, after the two of them have like a nice little warm conversation, Miguel gets upset, calls his mom, and then he was like, you lied to me. He's a great guy, and he runs a business, and people like him and everything, and you said he was a tyrant, and you lied to him. And then she's like, no, Miguel. And I'm like, she did the worst job of like explaining herself. I'm like, at what point are you going to say something, lady? Like she just said nothing. She said, all she kept saying was Miguel, Miguel. He was like, no, mommy. And then he hung up the phone. I was just like, Jesus. Jesus. So then him and his dad, they link up together, and then, because he told him that he was a karate champion and everything. So he was like, oh, I got a business that you might be interested in. He takes him down to the MMA fighting club, because his dad apparently runs a fighting ring. I don't know if it's illegal or not. I don't know if his dad runs drugs, or if he does something. Either the fighting is, either he does drugs and weapons and everything, and he's running illegal fight rings and everything, or the fight ring is the front for his illegal businesses that he's doing. So he brings him to the business. They're down there, like they're watching the MMA fighting. And then that's when, Miguel had called his mom and cursed his mom out. And then, he got off the phone, put his phone back in his pocket, and went to go talk to his dad. While he was talking to his dad, Johnny and Robbie show up, because Johnny and Robbie, they were going around trying to find him. And then they eventually found him. When they found him in the fight club, they had on FBI t-shirts when they walked into the club. I feel like I missed something, because I know in the scene prior, Robbie, because they got their car towed, because he didn't speak English, they got his car towed. And in order for them to get the money to get their car out of, to get the car out of the pound, Robbie ended up, going into like a pepper eating contest. And then he cheated. Again, we're talking about honor here. He cheated to win the pepper contest, and that's how they got the money. I don't know why they ended up with FBI t-shirts, but the two of them went into this fight ring wearing FBI t-shirts. And then that's when, the henchman called Miguel's dad and said that, hey, there are 2 FBI agents in here, and they're asking about you. They're looking for you. And then he thought about Miguel being on the phone earlier, and then he got mad at Miguel, and he got all aggressive. He was like, who are you? Who are you talking to? Who are you on the phone with? And then he was just like, my mom. He's like, give me your phone, motherfucker. And I was just like, damn, dude. And I'm like, why is Miguel scared of, I'm like, I know it's your dad, but Jesus Christ, dude, like, you're an All-Valley champion. Like, Miguel's been getting punked the whole time he got to Mexico. So he takes his phone, he's scrolling through his phone just to check his calls and everything. And he saw, like, that last picture was a picture of Miguel, his mom, and his grandmother. And there was a moment where they were talking about the woman that he almost married, you know, which is his mom. And he said that like, oh, the grandmother like tore us apart or something. And then she left me. They had a whole conversation about how his mom left him. So when he saw that last photo, he knows Miguel's his son. He saw that damn photo. Like, I refuse to believe he saw that damn photo. So I thought we were done with Miguel's dad by the end of this, but apparently we're not, because that boy, like, his dad knows who he is. So anyway, he gives him his phone back, and then he apologizes, and he tells him, he's like, yo, come on. He said, let's leave here and let's go somewhere else. Johnny tries to chase after him, and then the goons ran up on him. One of the fighters tried to fight Johnny, and then the announcer was doing this funny thing. He was like, oh, it's MMA versus karate. And then they ended up cheating again because they used the pepper on the guy to get the advantage. And then Johnny beat the MMA guy up, and then that's how they got, that's how they got out of the fight club. So Miguel, he's down at some random store that his dad owns or runs. He took money out of the cash register, and then he was just like, yeah, I don't have any regrets about my life. And then he was just like, no, the woman left me and it was her loss. And then he was just like, you don't regret nothing. He was just like, no, because that is he was like, she wasn't down for the business, and that is business, and you have to take care of business. And then that's when Miguel realized, when Miguel had the whole conversation with him, he realized this guy's like a selfish asshole. Like, all he cares about is his money. He cares about his business, and he wasn't trying to be a family. He probably didn't even love his mom, and he's not the guy that he thought he was. So then, that's when his dad, he was like, why don't you come with me? Even the girl that he was with, because he was like, I trust no one. He was like, I don't trust anybody. He's like, even the woman I'm with, he's like, that's not my child, and she just wants me for the money. And, he's like, fuck all these hoes. He was just like really upset. But then that's when Miguel realizes, like, yo, he's not the guy who I thought he was. He told his dad, he was like, he never told him he was his son, which is crazy. We're not done with this. We're coming back to this. So he told him, he was just like, listen, he was like, I think I better go, have a nice life, whatever. Then he left. He goes outside, and I give him credit. He called his mom back in tears and apologized. He was just like, Mom, you were right. Like, he's a bad person. Like, he's a tyrant, this, that, the third. And then Johnny came out. That's when Johnny showed up. He showed up in the van. And then when Miguel saw Johnny, he embraced him. Miguel and Johnny hugged. And while the two of them were hugging, that's when Robbie got out of the car. And then Miguel saw Robbie, and then got this look in his eyes like, oh shit, Johnny got his real son back, and I'm assed out. So, and that's going to be a thing, because they're going to do this whole big thing now where Miguel's going to be jealous that Robbie's back in a relationship with his dad, and it's going to be this whole big thing, and the two of them are going to have a fight, and I already see where this is going. So that was the end of it, and thank you for tuning in. A lot of the other characters haven't been showcased yet in the show, and the ones that we've seen in the first episode weren't in this episode, so they're kind of interchanging the cast. They're not doing a thing where every single character is going to be in every single episode. Certain people are going to be in certain episodes, and other people are going to, like John, like even like, Daniel's son, he was only in I think he was in like one or two scenes the entire episode. His family wasn't in the episode at all. Like Sarah, Sarah wasn't there. Like, none of them were there. Is his daughter named Sarah? I keep forgetting. So, like, his family wasn't in it. Like, the other kids from the dojo, they weren't in it. So, first two episodes, again, it's like Tori wasn't even in the first episode, and now she's in this one. So, like I said, like, we're tagging in and out as, to progress the story forward. But I definitely like it, and I like where this is going, and I want to see what happens in episode 3. So, that was it, guys. So, hit me up on Twitter and or Instagram. Let me know what you thought about episode 2 of Cobra Kai. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're watching this review, most likely you've seen the entire season, or you've at least seen majority of the season. So, please don't put any don't put any, like, this is episode 2. Do not put any spoilers past episode 2 in the comment section below. But if you have any questions or concerns or issues or things that pissed you off in the first 2 episodes, definitely put them in the comments, and we will continue to talk about it. Check out the Tacos and Geek podcast with myself, Sean, Justin, and Gotham Geek Girl Nadia. Link will be in the description, so you can listen to the podcast. Definitely, it was a good podcast, and we talked about pretty much everything in the geekdom. Like I said, hit me up on Twitter and Instagram as always, and we will be back for episode 3 of Cobra Kai. So until then, take care, mind your honor, do not quit, and until next week, we are out this